To the same business school, so proud to actually have a friend like him who's actually done it big in the entrepreneurial sphere. We have Mr. Vishwanath Madhugari, who has flown in all the way from London. So thanks a lot. He's also on the executive committee of the council. And we have Girish Nayak, who's the Chief Technology Officer with ICICI. So Sandeep, over to you for the session on technology and competitiveness. We have 40 minutes, please.
Okay. This is a very interesting session, and I'll tell you why. Because the way the topic has been defined, competitiveness and technology. Competitiveness, we all understand, is what keeps our businesses going. It's what keeps our companies ahead of the others. Technology, I'm not too sure. To me, technology is a bit an abused word. It's almost the equivalent of news. What I do in my business is also news, and what some of the others do, which I would call smart, is also news. So maybe we could start off by having a definition of technology. I mean, the guy who runs the 10-man call center, he also thinks he's in the technology business. And the biggest companies in the world, whether it's GE or Lockheed or Siemens, they also are in the technology business. So maybe Girish, we could start with you, and you could define, coming from the banking sector, from the financial services sector, what is technology and what does it do for you?
Well, morning everyone. What you rightly said, Sandeep, if you just look at technology per se, it's a much abused word. I mean, we are talking about implementing technology in our organizations, we talk about digitization. But really what you see when people talk about that is a kind of lift and shift operation. They are just taking a process which existed without technology and kind of just digitizing the process. That really doesn't give any competitive advantage. Yes, it might save a few dollars in cost, but that is not really implementing technology. When we look at technology, we look at technology to fundamentally change the way we operate. In the sense, can we change the current process, make it so different from the existing process that gives you some competitive advantage over your competition. And let me give you an example from my business, which is insurance. For motor insurance, surveys used to be decentralized. A surveyor goes to the garage, does the survey, comes back, fills in his reports, sends it for evaluation, and it's a whole intricate process. A couple of years back, we looked at putting technology into this process. Simple way we could have done it is just make everything from paper to putting it on a tab and just doing the process mechanically. Instead, we said we have a set of surveyors who need to be on the field. Let them take the tabs, let them go on to the garages, let them do the photographing, the filling in of details on the tab. Then he doesn't need to come back to the office. All that information gets centralized at a single place, and there's a central team that looks at it. Now, this kind of the implementation of technology enables to break this process, change it fundamentally. Now I have one core central team which is looking at the claims management. That also helps me manage my risks better. It helps me in aggregating data better, and it helps me do analytics on the data for future claims management. So that is a different way of doing the process from what it was earlier. And that's what I call implementation of technology in your business, rather than just kind of digitizing an existing process and converting it into a digitized technology process.
Alok, if we could come to you, from the perspective of a user, we come from the perspective of a company whose business is technology. How do you view technology? How do you view it as a competitive tool, or is it something that just enables you to be in business, keep doing the things that you already do?
So Sandeep, very clearly, technology is the new world's phenomenon. In the old world, if we look at value creation, it was a value creation that was almost entirely or greatly dependent on the resource, the natural resource utilization. In this new world, when we talk of information age, etc., technology has emerged as a great value creator. And the great part is it is ubiquitous. It is almost present in every step of anything that you do. A company like Canon, for instance, would be putting in 8 to 10% investment into technology, but that is creating propositions for the customers. But let me explain about our thought on impact that the technology can create in the context of competitiveness. And essentially, it falls in 4 areas. First most important thing is the area where technology is constantly redefining competitors. That's the most important. Your survival depends on it. The competitors are no more the same standard old competitors that we were generally conditioned to look at. Competitors here, we are talking about alternatives that technology produces and creates for customers that completely makes your business as if it is no longer required at all. It is obsolete. So in order to ensure you are not obsolete, in order to ensure you are relevant to the future generation, investment in technology to constantly create propositions becomes the first most important requirement or necessity, or if I may, comparative requirement, so to say, of the technology. The second area in which I think it is creating a big impact on competitiveness is the area what I can call it as an area of redefining business activities. In business world, we are used to, if we were to look at 10, 15 years ago, handling different functional areas, finance or logistics or marketing, customer engagement, etc., in a different way, in an older way. In the new world, if I may, the new tech world, if I may, you are redefining just about every business activity in order to create better speed for customer response, lower cost for the organization, better compliance if necessary, and also mitigating risk. Technology has therefore become ubiquitous, as I mentioned. Every business activity, great potential for value creation, and that is what will be most important for gaining competitiveness. Third area of impact, if I may say, is the impact, and it's an interesting part according to me, is an area where it is creating choices for the customer in a very unique way. And let me explain. When we offer technology to customers, they do not consume it the way we offer. Today's consumer are using their product or whatever you're offering in a way they want. In fact, it is almost like if I was a chef, Italian chef, making a nice dessert and offering tiramisu to all 4 of you and saying, now tell me how the taste is. Each one of you, and if I allow you, you will put something, a dash of some chocolate on it or a wine on it or something else, and each one of you will have a different taste. Now, can I offer to you a proposition that can customize every single person's requirement? It's almost like 7.2 billion people having 7.2 billion kinds of products. Every technology proposition we offer gets integrated by customers in a different way using third parties, etc. Everybody's iPhone today looks differently. And therefore this, according to me, is a big impact of technology in competitiveness. And quickly, the fourth area in which I think technology is creating big impact in competitiveness is in people. Redefining workplaces. We are not in a similar workplace. If somebody 10 years ago was taken aside and put in a dark room and brought back saying that, okay, you left this company, you're coming and entering into that company, he won't recognize it. The workplace is so different, people engagement is so different, it is impacting cultures, it is impacting the way collaboration happens in the organization. So really speaking, when you talk of technology, you cannot live without it. It is tomorrow's oxygen for the world.
That's very. Subbu, if we could come to you, 20 years in the consulting business largely, what do your clients tell you? What do they ask for when they speak to you in terms of engagements?
If you look at I think some of us are currently talking, when we are saying technology, we are talking information technology as being one of the aspects of that technology which actually touches many of us a lot more. Of course, there are so many other slices and dimensions of the technology which for a moment I'm not getting into. But if I just look at information technology, if you look at it, probably this year, we are looking at corporates spending close to about $2.1 trillion on technology. And which includes, of course, the boxes, as well as includes the applications that run on them and also the services around them. And if you look at it, this is across business verticals. And the top 3 business verticals which seem to be consuming a lot more are, for example, banks, insurance companies, as well as telecom companies, because these are businesses which have completely been turned on their head and redefined through technology. And these businesses spend almost $600+ billion every year on technology. And one very interesting point that Mark made in the earlier talk here was, and that's also a good definition for technology, competitive technology, is something which is really impacting quality of life of people and changing the way they are experiencing services around them. Just for example, I mean, 10 years back, if you just take mobile users, in the last 10 years, the mobile user base has almost increased 10 times. And 10 years back, 70% of the mobile users were in developed countries. And today, 77% of the mobile users are in developing countries. And if you look at it, if you look at banks, for example, they've now realized that almost 75% of online logins that they have today is through mobile channels. And India is, mind you, the second largest mobile user base today in the world, and probably 3 times larger than the United States. And today, if you look at it with all this impact that is touching us, even today, less than 10% of the mobile users in India actually use any mobile apps. And they are like me, they largely use the phone only to talk to people. So, therefore, if you look at it 20 years back, we thought ATM really changed things for us. And then we found internet banking to be a great convenience. And boom, suddenly you have this entire revolution around mobile. And I don't know what it is going to do in the next 10 years, to be honest. Because if you look at the way bandwidth has increased in the last 5 years, today if you look at it, just to see how technology is impacting competitiveness, Africa today, many parts of Africa are far more advanced with respect to the mobile technology that they are deploying compared to many parts of developed Western Europe as well as the United States. Many people who have not even walked into a bank ever are actually using mobile banking. And also today, even in India, the younger banks, the newer banks are able to just adopt technology so much faster, and the larger banks will increasingly find it very, very difficult to compete with them. And today's users, compared to our generation, technology is in their DNA. So the way people are going to consume technology, and therefore how quickly providers like GERD here and other technology providers create new technology so that businesses can be ahead of others in absorbing that and actually redefining how technology impacts people's life. I think it's a hugely evolving space.
Right. That also brings us to a very interesting thing that you touched upon briefly, which is while the numbers are there in terms of mobile phones or whatever, the usage still indicates that there is a lot of opportunity to go. And Vish, if we could come to you about that, and maybe we could talk about the intersections that in terms of technology and usage, and talk about it from your own experience as well.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point you mentioned. In fact, to me, technology is an enabler. I mean, because today the definition of technology is no longer what people would have perceived it to be the case, a few years back or even a few decades back. Businesses are transforming themselves. There is disruption in the air. Nothing is sacrosanct. Paradigms are shifting, business models are shifting. So I think the best way in which which I look at technology is it's the lifeblood of any organization. It is something which is absolutely necessary, but the way any organization implements technology is really unique to their particular situation. Also, let us not forget that today the business world is quite fleet-footed. Today we can no longer plan beyond maybe 6 months. And the fact of the matter is that technology has to be used in a way that serves the interests of that particular organization. So in terms of the intersection of technologies, which I'm actually quite interested in, I like to think of innovation happening at the intersection of technologies. So if you look at the unraveling of the DNA code between 1990 and 2000, it took 10 years for the code to be unraveled simply because computing power was not powerful enough to be able to unravel the code faster. But today you can do it in 3 hours. So it is the mismatch between different areas of technology. You look at biology, you look at computing, you look at biomedical research, you look at manufacturing. I think more of the innovations that are going to happen in the future are going to be at the intersection of technologies, and I believe that we should focus more on those, because innovations in the siloed sectors, on the verticalized sectors, like purely manufacturing or financial services, they are now more or less coming to an end. Look at financial computing, or quantum, quants as they call it. So you have a combination of mathematical brain power and financial analysis being put to, of course, there have been some issues about that because the 2008 financial crisis is attributed to quants, So, but the point is that I think we should always look at intersections of innovation, where I think the future lies.
Gerd, you are the 400-pound gorilla in this room. Siemens is a huge corporation. You create technologies for others, and you also use technology yourself. What's your perspective on this issue?
Let me first start with an aspect of technology which my co-panelists haven't touched so far. See, for us, we are a technology company, and in this way, for us, it's important not only to use technology, but also to develop technology. When the company was founded, it was also technological-based invention, 1846, the pointer telegraph, which was the start of Siemens. And our philosophy is we target in all our businesses to achieve technological leadership. And the idea is if you achieve technological leadership, you will also be able to achieve market leadership, which will in turn lead to higher profits, which you again can invest into developing technological leadership. That is also, if you look at it, we spend every year about 4.2 billion euro in R&D, research and development. We have a corporate technology organization with 7,500 people, which also includes about 2,000 people who do basic research where we try to develop new technologies. For this, of course, we also use technologies. We have processes where we observe the technology development and see what kind of impact upcoming technologies can have on our business. Because problem is, as a technology company, especially if you miss a single trend, you may be out of the business.
That's probably true. So, when you have your R&D budgets, when you allocate those, and you're looking at the future, and you're obviously also aware of the fact that there is a current competitive situation in the market. So how do you allocate resources for that? At the end of the day, the future is a bit of a pie in the sky. So
we have a process, a kind of a road mapping, where we look into the future, forecast how, from our point of view, things will develop, what kind of technologies are required for that, and then accordingly allocate the resources. And I can also tell you we are not always 100% right. I mean, from time to time, you will miss a certain topic where you have to catch up, but overall this process works quite well, I would say.
Sure, please.
Yeah, quite relevant to Kanan's case on what he just said and what question you asked. So two areas in which technology companies particularly invest a huge amount of money for technology development from a customer value creation angle. One is the domain in which you are in. So you forecast, you fast forward, you think what other options might emerge in future and begin to invest on this. Second, which is even bigger investment, is the investment which is not your domain, but which are the ones that you will require going forward. For example, in electronic products like ours, if we require processors, whether it is camera or the printer, etc., we buy it from outside, but that area also requires a lot of technology investment. Whenever any new prototype is being created, you got to invest into that prototype. So you need to create what is called virtual reality, or now what is being called mixed reality, so that you don't have to invest into the prototype, but you can actually create. New digital SLRs that Canon is launching now are being created with mixed reality. Physically, it does not exist. They do all experiments on that mixed reality prototype, then come out with which is the right product and how it looks like, when you hold it in your hand, how good or bad it is, etc., and then move forward. So technology investment is just beyond just the domain, and it goes into everything around the ecosystem that can help you to be on the frontier.
Girish, I just wanted to ask you, related to this, that's the perspective of two companies which are in the technology business. Now, as a large user of technology in the banking and financial service industry, do you ever think of investing in the technology yourself, or do you think, you'd outsource it, or, probably hire the best from the market?
I think as a large user of technology, we do look at technologies where we need to invest in to be future ready. Not in the big way as the technology companies, but more in terms of aligning ourselves so that we know, we actually don't know for sure, but we think we see a threat or opportunity in certain technologies which, like Alok said, may not be from our domain, but which might be disruptive to our business. And those are technologies we kind of keep a watch on, invest a little, kind of wet our feet in it. For example, I'll give you in motor insurance business, one of our largest businesses. A lot of things are happening out there which could be absolutely disruptive to our business. Take, for example, the Google car, right? Once it's already a reality, there are licenses given for Google cars in a couple of states in the US. Now, when that actually becomes reality, how will you give motor insurance? Who will you insure? I mean, that's a question that most of the insurance companies are asking. But not going that far. I mean, just even looking at the kind of computing power that's there in today's vehicles, that really has a huge potential to move the, you can say, the competitive levers from the insurance industry to outside the industry. For example, in terms of processing claims on the vehicles we insure, the more data we have on the actual incident, the better our ability to process those claims is. But more and more this data is obtained from the vehicle, and who controls that data? It's the manufacturer of the vehicle who's putting that computer on board. So sometime in the future, you could really have the vehicle manufacturers having the control on how this whole the insurance ecosystem around this vehicle is. That really is something that we keep our eyes open for. I've mentioned a couple of threats to the industry, but again, you can have parallel domains which give opportunities. For example, in the health insurance industry, a lot of wearable devices nowadays, which monitor the person's fitness, health, heart rate, and so on. Now, typically when we give health insurance, we just give, we do a screening in the beginning, and once we give the insurance, the person is on board. We never really have an opportunity to monitor how the person is progressing. And this is kind of, the insurance is renewable every year for life, so it kind of goes on, and you really never know when the risk is deteriorating in terms of saying, that's the industry way of saying it, but the person's health is deteriorating. Sure. But if we are able to use some of the information coming from the wearable devices to make interventions in time and kind of give information to the person about things he can do to maintain his health level, that reduces our risk in the long term. So there's an opportunity that is also there in terms of from a different domain, which we can bring technology into our domain and use it for our advantage.
Right. So we want to add something.
Sandeep, just one point I wanted to add there. Essentially, I think competitiveness in the technology context is very different for the creators of technology and the people who are deploying and consuming that technology. And I think in the last 10 years, the kind of investments that need to be made to deploy and consume the technology more smartly, that landscape has changed quite a bit. I think today the investments more and more that users are making, whether they are insurance, telecom, banking, retail, the whole competitive advantage is coming from how you are able to integrate technology. Because what has happened in the last 2 decades is the offerings in terms of technology have really exploded out there. So today, if I look at a tier 1 bank, even in one small space that one of my clients in the capital market space, they have 2,500 different applications which are integrated together. Whereas 20 years back, it would have been 20 applications. So today, the differentiation and the investments that users are making is how am I creatively stitching together different technology solutions available out there in a way where I'm far more sensitive to the end user of the technology, who's my customer's customer. I think that is where the serious differentiation I'm seeing is coming from.
So it's also about making smart choices.
Correct. Correct, because the investments are huge, and often there is no rolling back for at least 5 to 7 years, because you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, one of these technology programs we are working on currently, this bank is investing $2 billion over a 4-year period on one technology program. So there's no going back. I mean, for at least the next 8 years, it has to serve you. Right. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to recover.
Right, right. Gerd, I have a question for you. I mean, all this is obviously true for companies, and we're talking at the corporate level. When you extrapolate this to the national level, how do countries pan out in terms of technologies? I mean, at the end of the day, there is this whole argument about India, that we've got such a large percentage of our population which doesn't have access to basic facilities. So should we, for instance, be investing in a Mars mission? Should we, for instance, be investing in other kind of technologies? How do you see that?
Well, if I look at it from country perspective, from Siemens as an organization today, we are present, we are perceived as a German company. Our headquarters are in Germany, but if you look at it, we are present in 190 countries. And out of our 360,000 employees, about 110,000 are in Germany only. So more than 2/3 of our employees are global countries. And from my point of view, countries, they have to come up with a respective technology roadmap in line with their specific requirements. If I look at Germany, for example, about 4 years ago, there was a specific campaign for information technology. Respective government, they really have to look at what are the requirements, the need of the hour for their specific country, and then come up jointly with the industry with respective programs. And this is something which also I can imagine companies like Siemens that we contribute in India, because we have a strong presence here, in the same way like we do it in Germany or in the US or in other countries as well. So the industry jointly with the government in principle needs to discuss what are the needs of the hour for the respective countries.
Wish, do you have a perspective on this?
Yeah, just a quick point about what was mentioned about the role of technology and how. So what I wanted to emphasize was the role of data, how that impacts on the technology. So for example, just to add to what you were mentioning, that recently there was a survey done in the UK by insurance companies about the risk factors of owning a house on the main road and two blocks away. So what one of the studies said was that you're more likely to get robbed if your house is on the main road, and you're also likely to get robbed if you are at the very end of the road, I mean at a few blocks away. So somewhere in the middle would be safer. So the point is that the data like that is being utilized by insurance companies in order to assess the risk factors of an individual. So so we will see that increasingly this kind of data will be mined and utilized in a way that may be favorable to us or not favorable to us. So that's an interesting point there.
Sure. Alok, you want to address this issue of? Yeah, you can take this.
So let me talk about India's perspective,
That's right.
and let us see whether we are ahead of time on this discussion on technology integration within India, Or do we wait for some more time, get through with the initial priorities for the country and then get on to this? Obviously, I don't think it's much debate to agree that technology is going to be one of the biggest enablers for a country like India to build on to this development roadmap. And this is for four things that I would again summarize that for. Number one, my message to everybody within India, whenever we are talking to our dealers, partners, vendors, agencies, and everybody, is that you are under deploying technology. Because you're under deploying technology, you are dependent on manpower and labor cost, which is relatively cheaper, and therefore you're not even thinking. You're feeling as if we are isolated, which isn't true. Very soon, we will have to catch up with the rest of the world. And every activity will have to be more cost efficient. So adoption of technology is the first thing that I always feel very relevant to just about everybody. Micro industry, small enterprises, medium enterprises. And this is adoption of global technologies. These are the technologies available, not in a wide, big way. I'm talking about even small pictures of IT applications, etc. Second thing, we got to build our own applications. These applications are different, maybe with topical requirements, rural problems, or remote villages. They need health services. Somebody got a heart attack. They have a mobile phone. They're talking about SMSing to a number and somebody calling from there on the mobile number. Mobile is the best personal identification. And there are so many ways in which India or Indians can build applications. That's the second thing. The third thing is, I think we have to begin to think big and look at, can we create technology which is for the rest of the world? We talked about that Mars mission. Obviously, this is a good case study. Why would the rest of the world not look at this technology which can reduce their cost to 1/3 or 1/20th or 1/40th? And therefore, creating technology for the global requirements. And D, we got to digitize India. India cannot stay like this. It is world's largest analog country. Bytes and terabytes of information are residing in India into files, and this is the worst way for the progress. So, adoption of technology, global technology, building applications, creating technology for the world, and digitizing India are my ABCD summary.
One topic I would like to add. I mean, talking about technology, one probably also needs to avoid to get into the trap of a one-size-fits-all approach. So global technologies are relevant, but for markets of emerging countries, you also need to adopt the technology to the needs of the market. So what we have developed, for example, is a concept that we call SMART, that stands for simple, maintenance-friendly, affordable, reliable, timely to market. So technologies which are suitable for markets like India, like China, Brazil, and not necessarily simply take global technologies and bring them to the country and use them here, but develop specific technology for those markets and then take them from those countries to the rest of the world.
I think that's a great perspective to also get in the audience. And questions, please, for any of the panelists related to this issue. Yeah, I can see lots of hands. If somebody could just pass a mic. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Rajesh Narula. I'm from Micro Marketers. In the context of India's competitiveness on the technology frontier, there's some perspectives I wanted to bring about. I want to postulate that the compulsions for technology adoption do not exist in India. If you look at the IT sphere, for example, there are in the B2B space, there are three kinds of consumers of IT. Those who look at technology for competitive advantage, those who look at technology for cost advantage, and those who are forced to adopt technology. So now, why do companies do not look for technology for competitive advantage? Because they cannot amortize the costs over the markets. Global companies have global markets to amortize the costs. But that is why you find enterprise applications not being adopted unless the supply chain is forced to by the parent company. Or if you look at manufacturing sector, for example, manufacturing is becoming highly automated abroad. We are not doing that here. In the B2C space also, the technology is being adopted by the consumers, but it's not really a adoption which is competitive. It's just because we are forced to use technology at a very nascent and low value level.
Rajesh, thanks very much. I think we'll still wait for some questions if there are any. Yes, please. Can we keep it to a question and keep it short, please? Yeah. Somebody else in the meantime? Yes, please. Can you give a mic to the gentleman there? We probably need a few more mics around here.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My question is to Gert. We have discussed all the industries, automotive industry, banking industries, insurance industry. Other issue that faces common man and everyone in India is power. We want continuous availability of power at cheap rates, and we want to reduce energy theft as well. So my question is to Gert is like, how competitive do we feel to implement smart solutions as have been implemented in other countries, and how do we view India as a market for, let's say, smart metering or smart meters?
Well, as a market, it's a huge market. The first part, I didn't get the competitiveness of India or the power supply in India.
The competitiveness of India in terms of implementing a smart metering solution.
Well, in principle, I mean, I wouldn't see in terms of being able to implement the smart grid applications in India. India is as good as any other country. I mean, that wouldn't be an issue. The issue is really, let's say, from my point of view, getting the projects up and running and then simply do it. But from a Siemens perspective, I mean, India definitely is an extremely interesting market. And if you listen to the other speeches, I mean, infrastructure is also one of the main topics. So there's a lot work ahead from my point of view, and it can be done.
Thanks, Gert. Thank you.
Yes, you can ask your question.
Yeah. This is Hari Prasad from Sealed Air. It was a very interesting discussion on technology and various aspects of technology. I have one question which I think some of the panel members had touched about. What proportion of Indian companies are adopting technology as it is? Because it is one, it's good to have. Of course, everybody knows it brings efficiency, speed, information for decision making, as well as for communication. And what proportion of companies in India customize the technology to their requirements? I think some of them has touched about, but I want to know what proportion.
See, if you really look at, it's a number difficult to quantify. There are, it depends on the source from where you're taking your data. But my data indicates that I was telling you that almost $2.1 trillion is spent globally on technology, whereas the India spent is still less than $100 billion. And I think the gentleman there touched upon the other point of how the latest of technology is actually available at a price point which companies can integrate into their operations is a big question. And therefore, going back to my earlier point, unless creation of technology is accelerated, I think we will have a challenge in increasing the level of technology absorption. Unless we create, it cannot be made available at a price point where it makes sense, especially for small and medium enterprises to absorb technology. I think that is the big chunk of the domestic market.
Right. We can have one last question, yeah, please.
Hi, I am Manoj Sahai. My question is, why technology companies also many a times fails to understand the change in the technology happening. We have seen Microsoft, we have seen Intel missed out on internet, on cloud computing, on mobile. We have seen with Microsoft.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Can I answer it?
Please.
Yeah. I think that's a good question. See, my personal perspective is that you talk about the competitiveness of countries, competitiveness of India or any of the countries. But when technology is adopted, it only happens during a crisis. It's only when you are pushed to the wall that companies start acting. So you talked about why Intel did not see certain things, or why IBM did not see certain things. So it is because of certain institutional factors within the organization, certain inertia, and it's only when a company is pushed to the wall, or even countries are pushed to the wall, that innovation happens. So look at the gridlock over healthcare in the United States. The two parties don't seem to agree, or even if something good is happening, it doesn't seem, the goodness is not seen. So the point is that we need to look at interoperability of systems. We need to look at the best of various systems getting together in order to be able to achieve an objective. It's not necessary for a country to invent everything. You can take the best from different parts of the world and make it work for India in a way that is best for the country.
Good, if I may add a few words to that. See, number one, innovation to some extent, looking ahead, is something which is not, let's say, like a mathematical formula that you can calculate it. It also depends on individuals. So the human factor, and there can always be a situation that somebody oversees a technology or underestimates the impact of the technology, which then has negative impact on the business. Where I have a little bit of different opinion, innovation shouldn't come if you're under pressure. Innovation has to be something continuously driven from within the organization. That's the way we do it within Siemens. And if I look at it, I joined Siemens in 1986, so several years ago, and I'm still with the company. But if I look at how the company looked like in 1986 in terms of business portfolio and how it looks today, two complete different companies. So there were many businesses we got out, but not because we were forced. We sold businesses that were profitable, like the automotive business, because we felt it doesn't fit in our future strategy. We got into new businesses in healthcare diagnostics, for example, because we felt in addition to the diagnosis from the pictures, we would need diagnosis also on the blood samples and things like that. So innovation has to come from within the company proactively if you really would like to survive. If you're pushed against the wall and then start or try to innovate, then probably you've already lost the battle.
Yeah, no, I was not referring to innovation of course I agree with you. I was talking about when paradigm shift happens, sometimes you need a crisis to make things happen. Yeah. Innovation is of course seamless and continuous. Yeah.
Vishkar, just to add to that, companies can be innovative yet fail to recognize innovation when they strike one. And classic example is Kodak. They were the ones who invented digital photography, and they were afraid to cannibalize the existing business, and hence...
Okay, that's a great note to probably wind up this session. Just to conclude, what we are really getting here is that, technology as a competitive tool is probably a motherhood. The real big deal is to make some smart choices, to indigenize as much as possible, both at the corporate level as well as the level of the country, and use technology in ways which you can address the market, address the user. Is there anything else, gentlemen, you would like to add to that? Or we can conclude this one.
I can see Amit looking at the watch. Just relevance is very, very vital. That's the only thing that I would say. And many times we work on a technology which does not become relevant for people after a while. And therefore agility to keep changing and never fall in love. So we fall in love with the technology and we become arrogant. It's not going to change. And there are hundreds of stories of companies and countries where falling in love with the technology is the starting point of a disaster.
Thank you so much. Falling in love is a nice way to end this session. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, all great panelists. I would like to invite on dais Deborah Smith to please come and extend a token of appreciation to all our panelists. I would also like to thank our moderator for the wonderful session.
Great. thanks a lot, Sandeep, for this
Thank
great
you very much.
thing. So thanks a lot.